Hi, it's Tuesday night at 6:30, so it's time for What We're Reading. Tonight we're talking fantasy, and I'm talking fantasy with my favorite fantasy reader, Beth from the Gaines Township branch, who knows everything there is to know about reading fantasy, both for adults and for teens. She is fabulous. I'm going to go on and on about her. Beth Green from Gaines, what are you reading, Beth?
Okay, so right now I am reading The King of Antolia. It is actually a
Atolia?
teen series. It's by Whalen Turner. It's the third book in a series. So I like the fantasy series where it's set in like a world that's totally different than ours usually. And it has that feel to it, like the old timey king and queen thing.
Do you have to read it in order? Do you have to read?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So, do you know the first one off the top of your head?
The Queen's Thief.
The Queen's
Let
Feet?
me see. Thief. Thief, like steal. Thief.
The Queen's Thief. The first one, and what was the name of the
Yeah,
series?
it is. The series is The Queen's Thief. I'm just reading the third book, which is King of Antolia. I listened to it on audio. I think I listened to all of them on audio. Good reader. Lots
Yes.
of intrigue. This one has been bothering me a little bit because the main character has been very, like, you're not hearing his side of things. I don't like that. I miss him. I listen for him. Well,
Really?
so that's what I'm leaving right now. What about you?
Right this moment, I just finished it. So, I'm not reading it anymore, but it's one of those books that I wish I was still reading it. You know what I mean? It's like you're kind of mad when you finish.
Yeah.
And it's The Invisible Life of Addy Larue. And you can tell it's a fantasy because look, when I get close, the woods arrive on my screen. And Addy LaRue was born like in a forest in one of those little houses you would expect a witch to be living in. Her dad
Mm-hmm.
carved things, like he carved little birds and things. And he was a wood. I mean, we're talking hundreds of years ago, about 300 years ago, and
Okay.
in France. So, and a like witch lives nearby, and Addie's just wild, and she wants to see the world, and she wants to go places. She does not want to be stuck in this town. She doesn't like any of the local yokel boys that are there. They expect her to get married and settle down and have 10 kids, and she wants none of it. Um,
No.
I mean, she's just very spirited and doesn't want to do this, and she doesn't know what to do. She talks to the local, like the witch that lives down, and we lost Beth a minute. Hopefully, she'll pop back in. So Addie goes and talks to the witch, and says, "How do I do this? Who do I pray to?" She tries praying to everyone. She was brought up Catholic, so she prays to all of those gods, and she asks Estelle down the road, who else can she pray to? And Estelle tells her to leave little trinkets for the river and for the stars and for the night. And she tries everything just to get out of getting married to this guy that her dad wants her to marry because she's of an age where she should have gotten married already. And there's a man in
Mm-hmm.
town who's a widower, and he's got kids. He's like the only one left in the village who will marry her because he'll take someone older because he needs a mom for his kids. So I'm going on and we're still in chapter one. But this is an amazing. So what happens is Addie prays to someone that the Estelle, the witch kind of person, tells her you should never pray to someone who only comes out at night, who comes after dark. I can't remember exactly how she put it, but she put it really well. And
Mm-hmm.
Addy didn't pay attention at the time, and she did. So she ends up kind of making a deal with the devil that if he'll help her escape this life of marrying this guy and taking care of his kids, then dying young, and if then
Yeah.
so she wants to be free, and if he gives her free and to live as long as she wants, then she gives him her soul. So, but
Okay.
the way that comes out, her being free means, okay, you're free. That means you can't leave a mark on this world. no one will remember you after 5 minutes. You can't,
Oh,
right? You can't open a bank account. You can't get a job. You can't have a home. I mean, she can't be attached to anything. And it's just her living day to day. And this book takes her through 300 years. And
wow.
until she meets Henry. And for the first time, someone remembers her. So that's all I'll say. And it's amazing. It's one of those books where you have to keep turning the pages. And I feel really horrible that I'm getting so excited and getting people worked up about The Invisible Life of Addy Larue by V.E. Schwab, because there's a long waiting list at the library for it.
But look for Express Books.
Look for Express and put yourself on hold. And I've got a While You're Waiting book, but I'm going to let Beth talk for a minute because I've been going on and on. Beth, I know you've got another one to tell us about.
Yeah. So I actually have a few different authors that I really enjoy reading. One of them that is probably a little less known is the Maria V. Snyder. She writes adult fantasy. They're kind of like that old worldly feel. There's horses and kings and kingdom and intrigue. The one I especially like is called The Poison Tester, I think it is. I didn't have it pulled up. But it's set in the main character is forced to test the food of the person who's holding her prisoner, the king, the count,
Oh my goodness.
for poison. So that's so she has to learn all these different things about poison, and it's just an incredible journey, and they've she's morphed it off into different characters, but I love the world building. That's one of the things I like about fantasy is, really getting into some of the background, and this one definitely has it. So I really enjoyed that series as well. So that's Snyder, Maria V. Snyder. She has a couple different things, but.
Okay. I want to just take the opportunity, first of all, to say thank you, Nanette, for commenting. I love that book, Penny. Got another Addy fan. But I also want to say, if you come into the library, a KDL library, looking for fantasy, it's a little tricky because our category is science fiction and fantasy, and it abbreviates SF for the science fiction. So I know that drives Beth a little crazy. So science fiction and fantasy, they're both like different worlds. And right now, it feels like a good time to get out of this one and find one that's a little different. But science fiction is very linear and very, we want a world that actually could exist and logically would work, and is a lot of times it's an evolved world or a more intellectual world that has formed the technology of an advanced society, that kind of thing. Whereas fantasy, think fairies and kingdoms and kings and queens, and it couldn't really happen unless you're one of those grown-up women who still likes unicorns.
Me.
So
I love unicorns.
So look for the fantasy under the SF at the library. And do you want to do one more, Beth?
Yes, actually, this is a teen book.
Okay.
But it's so far the very best book I've read in this whole year. It's March. But the interesting thing about it is called, I don't know if I can pull it up, The Other Side of the Sky.
The Other Side of the Sky. Yeah, I can see that. Who's that by?
It's by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. So the interesting thing about this book is that it combines both fantasy and science fiction, because there's two different viewpoints. On the planet or on the ground area, they're a lot more magical based. There is some magic power around. They have a living goddess because she helps take care of the people there. And then you also have like a spaceship up above the planet, and they think there's no one living on the planet. Like they had left it a long, long time ago. They didn't think anybody was there, that no one could survive. And then the two meet because the prince who lives in the sky world is, well, he's basically kicked out by someone he doesn't know yet, but in a spaceship. So he like crashes to the earth, and then the living goddess comes and rescues him. But it's such a great combination of like the science guy who was like, I don't understand, the magic can't be real. I mean, come on, and so I like having that blend of both of them. But it was just a really engaging story. It is the first in a series, of course, because all fantasy is series pretty much. So I have to wait for the next one to come out. So that one just came out.
Not Addy Larue, I'm going to say.
See, there are exceptions, but it is true. There is a lot of fantasy.
And also, not this other one. And I brought this one because I was so mean to get you, Addy. I'm telling you, Addy Larue, you will not be able to put it down. But if while you're waiting on that long wait, try this one. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Now, this one's been out for 10 years, but it is so good and so well loved. I mean, it gets handed down. I mean, word of mouth. Every librarian I know who's ever read a fantasy, this is the one you want to recommend, even for people who aren't that into fantasy, because it's just beautifully written. The language is gorgeous. And it was actually part of KDL's new core collection.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yes. Core collection is the adult fiction and nonfiction titles that are loved the best by librarians and readers alike right now. So this collection will change and fluctuate as we add some and take some away, because we want the real popular books. So if you're looking for a great read, just a big book, look to the KDL Core collection. It started at the Amy Van Andel branch where we're going to pilot that, but it's spreading fast. It's going to be spreading. So look for Core. Anyway, the Night Circus. And I am tempted, because of copyright laws, we can't really just read from a book. But when you open this, you are so tempted to read it out loud because it is so beautiful. The circus arrives without warning. Visually, you don't have to see pictures of this book. Just to read it, you get the picture in your mind of this black and white circus. So you've got circles, circular paths leading to huge, round, pyramidal circus tents that are all just black and white, and everything is black and white. Even the ground is black and white. And the author says they don't know if it's, done in nature or if some kind of magical circus spell that does that, but it's all black and white, except for here and there are hints in what people's wearing, in a scarf, in a flower of red. So you've got black, it's very atmospheric. And the circus also the circus's hours are from dusk to dawn. So the first thing,
where it's going to appear.
You don't. And it isn't advertised. It's all word of mouth. The word gets out through circus lovers, and you hear all over town that the circus is going to be tonight, dawn to dusk. And the crowd gathers around the place where they've heard it's going to be. And they see the black and white tents, kind of dull, but the sun is still up. So nothing's going on, and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're milling about. And just when the sun goes down below the horizon, lights pop up all over all the tents, like fireflies have lit all over. And the beautiful clock in the center is lit up. Yes. I haven't read it in a long time, but I kind of dipped into it again to talk about it tonight. And it makes me want to read it again. It's so fabulous. There are two young, supernaturally talented people, Marco and Celia, and they both have magicians who are kind of mentoring them in that they're using them. These two have been competing their whole lives, and they have this contest where they groom a young magician, and then like a magician cockfight, they put them up against each other eventually in this competition, and they don't know whose protege is going to win. And they don't know that each other is their competition. They don't know who their competition is. Marco finds out first. Celia doesn't know, but they know each other in the night circus. And they gradually are also falling in love. So it's beautiful and magical. And the different tents, don't think circus like, the mustache. Think the most glorious Vegas show You know what I mean? That you can't describe.
Yeah, you can't describe.
Right. So
Magic.
it's yes, it's magic, and it takes you out of this world of the mundane and the masked. Two different kinds of masks. So yes, this kind.
We like
So it's
that.
really beautiful. Pick it up the nice. And Erin Morgenstern has a new book too that I have been meaning to read and still haven't gotten around to it. Have you read her new one, Beth?
I don't think so.
So check out both.
But that one
And
is
I know
a classic. Like
it's
a
our
modern day
core.
classic. It's good. Yeah, it's core.
It is. So do you have any more? Did you bring any standalones or are they all series?
Okay, well the one that reminds me of it, like the Time Traveler's Wife. Did you read that?
Oh, yes.
Nifflin, I can't think what her last name is. And it's been a long time since I read it. But I've always liked that book, but there's people who really don't like the way it's formatted because it jumps around too much.
Well,
She
I think there's also people
travels
who
and
have trouble with Niffenegger. Is that's her name?
yes.
Audrey Niffenegger. Niffenegger.
Yes.
I had a problem with the fact that the couple who eventually get together, at some points he's an adult and she's a child,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Yeah.
creeped me out quite a bit.
Well, they don't have a relationship like they do when she's an adult because she's
I
just a
know, I
player
know,
wife.
I know.
It's he that jumps around and it's confusing, but I don't know. There's just something about that book that still sticks with me. With it was just so different, and and you need that once in a while, to kind of have a totally different approach to time travel or whatever, and just and that is a standalone one.
The thing I liked about the Time Traveler's Wife, which really good time travel books have, is the feeling of a puzzle being put together expertly. Because for
Yes, that's
all of this to work, we're going backwards and sideways and coming here, and the
mhm.
pieces have to fit so that he knew this then and she found this. So it's very expertly done. And when you see that done well, it's really kind of magical.
Mhm. That one had a movie, right? I don't remember the
Yeah,
movie being good.
I don't think it was well reviewed. If I like a book, and I did like that book, besides my one reservation of getting the heebie. But if I like a book and the movie comes out and it's not well reviewed, I just won't watch it. I don't want it to ruin the book.
I'm a sucker. I always want to watch it just in case.
Okay, what other series do you have?
Okay, so the other author I really, really love is Robin Hobb, and that's a female author.
Hobb,
And
Hobb.
Hobb, yep. And she has this convoluted series, but you can start they're like kind of trilogies, but they all kind of tie in together. The first one I read, the very first one that she had was the Assassins Apprentice. Okay,
I've seen that.
and yeah, yeah, they've been around, but there's a whole convoluted world that you can enjoy. But dragons come into it at some point too, which I personally really love. I love dragons, but fascinating. Just how she develops each world and the characters. Like she has such diverse characters. In one of the not it's not featured as much as in the Assassin's Apprentice, but in some of the other spin-off ones, they have these living ships, and you find out why later, why they're living per se. But the masthead, the figure at the front of the ship, can talk and communicate and can feel like whatever people are doing on their ship. They like share some of the emotions of that, and it's just a fascinating world that she developed. With the magical elements, and there's one character that is threaded through everything, and she is a very mysterious, because sometimes she's a girl and sometimes he's a he, and it's just really, really great world building. Love world building. She is excellent at it. So
Yes,
Robin
I have a
Hobb.
lot of people ask me for those kind. And Sarah loves time travel too. She said she wonders how Einstein would like to read these types of books. I think well, who knows? Wouldn't he be good, Sarah, at writing one? I would think. I mean, making that kind of puzzle, and he would know technical aspects if time travel could happen that might make it seem more believable, more science fiction-y even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing with time travel. It's not always fantasy. A lot of times it is a sci-fi setting. I think the time traveler's wife is different because it's some type of genetic disorder
Right.
or something.
Oh, did you see that? Did you see that movie About Time?
I don't know.
Oh, you have to watch that. Everyone has to watch that. If you like time travel, that was one that was genetic.
Okay.
His father could do it, and his father could do it. Only the guys, though, which kind of stinks. But it was very sweet and wonderful. So if I'm recommending a movie too, hopefully Katie, I'll have it to check out. About Time.
About Time. Well,
About Time.
Diana Gabaldon's theory is also a genetic time travel option when she travels back to Scotland.
Oh yes, and is that a series now?
Oh yeah. It's a very large series with very large books. And it's not done.
Are the books done? No?
No. She's like George R.R. Martin. Never gonna
See,
finish this, right?
I love the George R.R. Oh, Nanette knows it's Larue. Yes, that's right, Addy LaRue. Well, did Addy LaRue did she travel in time or she just lived a very, very long time? I mean, I don't think she could go back and forth. The devil took her back and forth in space. I'm sorry, I'm having a conversation with the comments with Nanette. Nanette, we have to have you on the show. Nanette will be back on the show soon. She's a great one to talk books about. So if you were a kid like me who read Lord of the Rings, or a kid like Beth and loved Harry Potter,
Yeah, I was a kid.
check out some of the adult fantasies and other worlds you can go to when you've had just enough of this one for a while. We'll be back, but it
Good
gives you a
escape.
reason to leave for a while. So I'm going to say goodnight for now, and hopefully Beth will come back with me and talk more about fantasy. And this time we'll drag Nanette with us, and maybe Sarah.
Okay. That'll be fun.
Next week on What We're Reading, I'm going to introduce everybody to the Amy Van Andel Library crew. So a lot of the people that you'll see working at the Amy Van Andel Library now at our new library will be on the show telling us what they're reading. So check us out next week at 6:30 and look for Beth to come back and talk more about fantasy. Thanks, everybody. Keep reading.
Thanks.